Alright, let's get started with setting up a staking node on a Windows virtual private server on the Amazon Web Services. I'll be following this guide that you can find on the hydrachain.org website under the docs. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is go to the Amazon AWS website, which is https://aws.amazon.com. You should see a button for sign up. I clicked on it, so it's saying complete. So yours will probably say create an account. We'll click on the create a new AWS account, put in an email address. We'll give it a password. You want to set a good strong password because this is where you have the highest potential for somebody to hack your account, especially if you create a simple password. I recommend doing a password that you only use for AWS and nothing else. You never use it on any other websites or anything. We can give it a name. Continue to the next step. It's going to ask me if I want to save that. I'm going to say don't save. They're doing a security check here, so we'll type in this. If I get it right. I often get those wrong. If it wants to know if this is business or personal, I'm going to do it as personal. Put in your full name, address, say that you've read the agreement. Give it a phone number. Give it your credit card information. We are going to confirm our identity. Should be getting a message on my phone, which I did. It gives me a code. I type that code in there. It's going to ask me to choose my service. I'm going to do the free tier, the basic support free tier, and click complete sign up. Now I'm going to go to the management console. I'm going to log in with the information that I just created. Enter the security code, enter the password. So now we're into our console. Click on this message. Got it. We want to launch a virtual machine. First, let's go enable the multi-factor authentication by clicking on our icon up here of our account name and going to My Security Credentials. And then we're going to go to the multi-factor authentication, activate the MFA. I'm going to use the virtual MFA device, which I'm going to use the Google Authenticator that is on my phone that you probably already have. If not, you need to install it. And we have a list of compatible applications here, different devices that you can install. I'm not going to go through all that because you probably already have that. I'm going to show the QR code. I'm going to go to my authenticator, click on the plus icon, scan a barcode, hold it up to the screen. Secret saved, and now I have to enter it twice. So I'm going to get this one in, 276-815, and wait for it to change, and 761-7759. So we have successfully assigned virtual MFA. I'll click on close. And now we have our multi-factor authentication set. So now we can go back to our setting up an instance. So probably want to pay attention to the region. Depending on where you're located, you can set up a server anywhere in any of these regions. Pick a region that works best for you. Doesn't necessarily have to be something close by, but you can choose anywhere. Doesn't seem to matter. So in this management console, we have the option to set up several different types of servers. We want to pick a Windows server, and if you want to do the free tier, you want to pick one that has this free tier eligible icon next to it. We have a lot of different Windows servers here to choose from. We can do the Windows 2019. It's recommended in the guide, which is this one. It's the Microsoft Windows Server 2019 base with containers. So we'll select that. Then it shows us the free tier eligible instance types. So we would have to do the T2 micro. So we'll go ahead and select that T2 micro. In some regions, the T3 micro is also available as a free tier. If that's the case, select that one because it has 2 processors instead of just one. So we will click on review and launch instance. It's going to want us to set up a security group. So in our security group protocol, it's going to give us just our remote access port that is going to be open, and it's open to everybody by default. We need to add a few ports. We need to add port 3338. So we'll edit the security groups. We'll add a rule. We're adding a custom TCP rule. The port that we're adding is 3338. And it needs to be anywhere, and we need to add another custom TCP port. We need to add port 123 for our time, and it needs to be from anywhere. And then if you're following along with the guide, we're going to add a custom remote desktop port and 9833. Now this is where I differ a little bit from what they say in the guide. They're saying in the guide to open this custom port 9833, which it doesn't have to be 9833. You can choose any port. They're just creating a custom port for remoting into your instance. And in this case, they're selecting 9833 instead of doing the 3389. Personally, I don't think you need to do this step. I'll go ahead and do it, and that's totally up to you. Any hacker is going to use a port sniffer, and they're going to find out what ports are open anyway. The safest thing to do is to go and select from my IP, so it's going to put your IP address in, and you really need to do that to up here to our DP port 3389, which is the default port. So that's locking it down to your IP address, so nobody can access those ports unless they're sitting at your computer or connected to your network somehow. So those are all the ports that we need to add. So then we can go to, let's give this a security group name of Hydra, and then we'll click on review and launch. So we can review everything. We're doing a T2 micro here. We're doing a Windows Server 2019 base with containers. We've added our ports, the 3338, the 123 for the time sync, and the 9833 for our custom RDP port. That's really all we need to do. So now we click on launch. It's going to give us a set of keys, so we can select from an existing key pair or we can create a key pair. Now this is what allows us to access the password to actually log into our server through the remote desktop. We can choose an existing key pair or create a new key pair or proceed without a key pair, which you don't really want to do. So I'm going to create a new key pair, and I'm going to use the RSA, and I'm going to call it Hydra instance. And then I'm going to click on the download key pair. and I'm going to save the file. And then I'm going to click Launch Instance. Your instance is now launching. Click on this to see the status of it. It'll take us back to the dashboard so we can view that instance state. So now that we've created an instance, when we go back to our dashboard, we're going to see this list of instances. So our instance is now running. So we see it here initialized. It's all set up and ready to go. We have our public IP4 DNS, which is how we access our link to access our server. Okay, so now we're going to connect to our instance. We can just right click here on the instance ID and click on connect. That's going to take us to this little connected instance console. We're going to click on this RDP client. We're going to click on this download remote desktop file. We can also just click on this icon here to copy our DNS and save it to a Word document or text editor, just somewhere safe so that we can access it later. I'll put it in Notepad. I added it to Notepad here. So then we need to click on Get Password, and we need to browse and select that key pair that we downloaded earlier. So this Hydra instance.pem, and then click Open, and that's going to show our key, and then we just click on Decrypt Password, and that gives us our login password. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that in that same Notepad file. Control V to paste it in there. So now we have all of our connection. So now we can connect to the server. So there's a couple of different ways we can do that. We can go to our Windows icon, and well, we can browse and find the file that we downloaded. So we downloaded this remote desktop file, so we can just double click that under the downloads, and it should automatically start our remote desktop connection. And we can click on show details here. Well, we're just going to click connect. That's just a warning. So it's wanting the credentials. So we're going to select that password that we copied earlier. I still should have it in there, so I'll Control V it in here. We can click this icon to see it, to make sure that you click and hold down, it stays visible. And we probably don't want to remember it, so we'll just click OK. It's giving me a desktop connection certificate error. Following errors were encountered, blah blah blah. And we'll just click yes, connect anyway, because it's a self-signing certificate. So our remote desktop session's booting up, and we appear to be connecting. Getting this little icon here, setting up personalized settings for the server. Okay, I have a Gigantor screen, so I've got to downsize everything and move it over here so that we can see it. It's setting everything up. So we are logged into our computer. Now on mine, I have to scroll down to see the actual Windows icon and stuff, because the server's Windows setting is way bigger. We've got this, do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable by other PC or devices in the network? We want to say no. So we've got our information here on our little server. So I'm going to scroll back over and go to our next step. So we're connected. So now we want to make some adjustments to the Windows firewall here to prepare our server for the ports for the Hydra wallet. Go to Windows, Windows Security, Firewall and Protection, Advanced Settings. So I was opening it in the background. So if you don't see it, look for it behind your window here. Now we want to go to the inbound rules, and we want to do a new rule, and we want to do a port. Click next, and we want to do a TCP port, and the specific port is 9833, and click next. Allow the connection, next. For all, domain private public, next. We'll just call it Hydra port and finish. And we want to do the same thing for our time sync port. So new rule, port, next, specific port. We want to do UDP here, and specific port is 123. Next, allow, next, time sync port, finish. If we're doing our custom RDP port, we want to do the same thing for it. New rule, port, next, TCP, specific port, 9833, next, allow connection, next, next, custom RDP port, finish. So now we have all of our rules set. So now if we're doing our custom RDP port, we need to set the registry to allow it. So we're going to close this and do a reg edit. And we want to make sure we're doing this on the server because we are modifying the registry. So we want to make sure that we are not doing it on our local computer. I'm going to click on that little search icon. I'm going to type reg edit and click on this registry editor. We're going to go to HKey local machine, system, current control set, control, terminal, server, win stations, RDP, TCP, and over here we're going to scroll down until we see port number, which is right here. So we're going to right click it and click on modify, select decimal, and change the port from 3389 to whichever port you want to use as the alternative, which we've said is 9833, and OK. Then you need to restart the instance for the new port to be activated. Close this. So we need to do start, power. We just need to do a restart. We don't want to restart our instance. It's a planned restart. Now to test our new port, we want to go back into our RDP client. So the link we downloaded is not going to work. So we can click on the search icon on our local machine desktop and type RDP. You should see the remote desktop app should be selectable. So you'll get an icon like this. We can show options. We can go to our little notepad where we saved our link to the server, and I'm going to paste that in here. Get rid of this one I already have. Control V, and then we want to do add :9833 to the end of that, and we can save this connection so that we have it available next time. I'm just going to click connect, make sure it works first, and click connect. And the password should be the same password we already got. I'll go over here and copy, paste in the password. Again, you can hold down on that to see the password, and then click OK. We get this little security thing. I'm going to say don't ask me again. Click yes. And we can see that we are booting back up again. So we were able to access through the alternate port of 9833. We really were ready to install our Hydra wallet. Now they, in the guide, have us go through the process of disabling the Internet Explorer enhanced security temporarily. So to do that, we click on I'm just going to click on the search icon and type in server manager and access it that way. Close that. Click on local server, and I need to scroll over to find the IE enhanced security configuration and click on and we're going to turn both of these off and click OK, and we can close this, scroll over and back up. So now we can go to the website and download the latest wallet. So we'll open up Internet Explorer and we'll type in, we're going to click on Ask Me Later here for our internet security because it's going to want us to change that back, and we don't want to change it yet. So we'll go to https://github.com/hydra chain /node/releases. And right now the current release is this 18.5.6. So we'll click on that. That gives us these list of options. I am going to click on the 64-bit setup unsigned, and I'm going to click run. It's going to tell me that it's an unknown publisher. Are you sure you want to run? I'm going to say run anyway. I'm going to minimize that. So our Hydra is running to be installed. Click next. I'm just going to leave everything default. Next, install. It's complete. Click next. I'm going to go ahead and run Hydra. Click finish. And the Hydra is booting up. So I'm going to have to sync with the network, which it's telling me I'm 44 weeks behind. It's syncing with headers, telling me it's going to take an unknown amount of time. This probably will take to an hour. Okay, so if you're just getting started with Hydra and you have, say, all your Hydra you've already purchased and it's on KuCoin and you want to transfer it over, really you're ready to go. You would just click on this receive, and this is your address. This is my address. Your address will show up here, and that's the address you would send your Hydra to, and you're basically ready to go once you receive that Hydra. Once we are synced with the network, we can click on the staking and get the staking going. We want to also go through the process that I've shown you in other videos of encrypting this wallet. So we want to go to settings and encrypt wallet and then unlock it for staking. So if you're just getting started and you haven't watched any of my other videos, you would want to go to settings, encrypt wallet, and give it a passphrase. I use a really long phrase, something like the cow jumps over the moon at midnight or something crazy like that. You just come up with something that you can easily remember. It's super long and you can make every word capitalized, and it would be almost impossible for somebody to guess that. So just come up with some sort of phrase that you can remember off the top of your head, so you don't really have to write it down. You just remember it. That's the best way, in my opinion, to secure your wallet here. And it gives you this warning that if you encrypt it and you lose your passphrase, you will lose all your Hydra. So you want to make sure that you remember it. Are you sure you want to encrypt your wallet? We'll say yes. Of course, if you followed my other video and you started with the web wallet, you're not going to lose all your Hydra because you will still have access to it. It took a little while for this icon to come up here, so we'll just click OK. So it's going to restart it. And it doesn't hurt it if it's in the middle of syncing to do that. It'll just start back up where it left off. Oftentimes in this process, the Hydra doesn't start back up automatically, and I wind up going and starting it. We'll give it a minute here and see if it starts automatically. If not, I'll just go to the Windows and start it manually. Does not look like it's going to start back up on its own, so I'll just go here to hide the Windows icon, go to Hydra, click on the Hydra 64-bit, and that should get us booting back up here. You just click on hide this. So click on stake. We see we're not staking because the wallet is locked. So we would want to go to settings, unlock wallet. Make sure for staking only is selected, and then type in our super long passphrase. Click OK. Yep, I entered it wrong. Try again. And I got it right that time. So we're unlocked, but we're not staking yet because we haven't done the icon. So we can see if we mouse over this little icon, it says wallet is encrypted and currently unlocked for staking only. So we can click on this icon to start staking. So now we're staking, but we don't have any Hydra. So it's not staking, but the icon's on. And we see that we have 8 connections already, but we're still 40 weeks behind. And we don't have any Hydra, so nothing is being staked. As soon as you transfer your Hydra over, it matures for 17.8 hours, you will be staking. Now, if you already have a wallet set up and you want to import or restore your wallet from another device, installed it somewhere else, we'll go through that process next. So to do that, we will have to restart our remote session and give the computer access to our local hard drive so that we can get our wallet backup. So if we did a file backup wallet on our other computer that we're bringing this wallet into, or bringing into this wallet. So if I do a backup of this wallet that I just locked and save, so I would have that DAT file on my other computer, and I need to bring it over to this before I can do the file restore wallet. It's going to ask for that DAT file. Choose wallet restoration option. We have a reindex and a salvage, and that's why we want to do this before this finishes. If we wait for this and then we do the import and with the reindex, it's going to start this over again. So it wants us to browse to find that DAT file. And of course, we need to get it. This is the local one that I just created. So we don't want that one. We want the wallet that we backed up from our other wallet, or maybe our local machine. We set it up and we're moving over to the AWS, or we have a node set up somewhere else and we want to bring that wallet in, or then we would need to get that file over to this computer, over to our AWS instance. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to close out of this remote session. I'm going to type RDP again. I'm going to click on the remote desktop app, and I'm going to click show options, and I'm going to go over here to the local resources, and under local drives and resources, you want to choose the devices and resources that you want to use in your remote session. We can use the clipboard from our remote session. We can use a printer. We'll click on more, and then we can click on whatever drive that we have that backup stored in. So I have my local C drive already selected, and you see that there are several other options. I have multiple hard drives, so we click on that, and then all we need to do, since we have our last connection already here, is click connect, put our password in again. Now we're connected back to our remote computer, and we can just use our browser, just our file explorer, just like any other computer. So I'm going to hide that for now. So we can see under this PC, I will have C drive on my local computer. So I can double click into that, and that's going to give me my C drive. And then I can just browse to wherever I have that file. Go under users, my user, go to documents or downloads or wherever you stored it. I can just drag that to my local desktop so it's easy. I can select it from the wallet, but I'd prefer to get it over here on the remote computer first, just because it's so slow. So we have our Hydra wallet backup.dat. So now we can open the Hydra back up. Not quite done yet, but almost. So to import our wallet, we'll go to File, Restore Wallet. Click on the three dots to select the file that we just copied over to the desktop. I'll select this file, select open. I'm going to do salvage. If I do re-index, it's going to start our synchronization all over again, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do salvage and click on OK. It's going to give me this confirmation message. Are you sure? Yes. So it shuts down Hydra, and then I'll start the wallet back up again. So we've imported our wallet. We see that it's locked, encrypted, and currently locked. So we're ready to go. Next thing we would need to do is go to settings, unlock wallet, make sure that for staking only is check marked, and put in our passphrase. Click OK, And now our wallet is unlocked for staking only. And if we click on the stake tab, we're still syncing, so we're still not going to be able to stake. I mean, I can turn staking on here, but it's going to tell me that I'm not staking because I have not synchronized with the network. So if I scoot over where I can see the message, well, now I'm staking. Expected time 9 days. Got my weight there, but I'm still not totally synced with the network. It's still catching up. Oh, I'm going to turn that back off because I'm actually staking on a Pi right now. I don't want to disrupt that in any way. So there we have it. You should be ready to start staking. There's one other recommendation in the guide, and that is to go back to your AWS server. We'll go to our instance here. We'll go back to our instance. Go to security. We'll go to this security group, our Hydra security group, and we'll go to edit inbound rules. Now their recommendation is to delete your RDP ports. So this port, the 3389 and your 9833, but it's not necessary if you have locked it down to your specific IP address, then you've pretty much locked it down. But that is an option to delete those files to add an extra level of security to your server, and obviously before you can access it again you would have to come add this port back. One other thing they mention in the online documentation is doing a multi-factor authentication through this software called Duo that adds the multi-factor authentication for your Windows RDP session. I have not done this. I didn't feel like it was necessary, so I have not done this step. But it is available there. If you feel like you need that extra level of security, you can follow this documentation and get that installed. Okay, let's go over a couple of caveats with your AWS that you'll probably run into at some point. So come back to our console. We'll go to the EC2 dashboard. So right now we see that our public DNS record, this is our IP address right here, this section of it, the 18. They have it as dashes, but it would be 18.222.134.19. So we see it over here also. Here's one thing that you need to understand, and if you can't connect to your instance, this is probably why. So if I check this and go to my instance state and click stop instance and click stop. Now keep in mind this is essentially turning off the computer. So when we stop the instance, we're no longer being charged. We're not using our 750 hours of free service. So we're basically turning it off. Okay, so now our instance is stopped. We see our public DNS has gone away. Okay, we still have it here. But if we go back to our instance state and start the instance back up again, of course you see there's other options here. So we can reboot the instance. And if you do that, if you reboot, you're going to have the same outcome here. Essentially, every time we stop the instance and restart it, we're going to get a different IP address, which means that the little script that we downloaded to do our remote desktop is going to change. So you would need to update that IP address. See, our IP address changed to 3.140.208.103. That's one thing to keep in mind. So if you're not able to access your instance, say you're checking it every day, which they don't recommend. They recommend using the Explorer to see if everything's still working. I know most people are probably going to check every day, at least for a little while. Once you're comfortable with it running and you're checking maybe once a week or something just to make sure your instance is still up and running. If you can't access it for some reason, that's the first thing to check. So check to make sure that this IP address, your DNS is still the same as what you have in your remote desktop connection. If that's still the same, then the next thing to check is your IP address that you set for your remote desktop access. If you did the 9833 port, or if you're running the 3389 port, you need to check to make sure that the IP address that you gave it as your source is still your IP address. So if you are not paying for a static IP address, your ISP can change that IP address at any time. Generally happens to me if I have a power outage or something along that lines where basically the entire system gets rebooted. I generally get a new IP address, have to come back into my instance here to the dashboard and update my IP address so I can access it again. So those are the two main reasons why you can't access your instance state anymore. If both of those are still the same and you still can't access it, then you might want to go ahead and do a reboot on your instance and basically start over. You can go into your remote desktop and just manually change this IP address. You don't have to go download all that stuff. So if you already have it set in your remote desktop, so you can just go into here and change it to the new, just go over and change it to whatever the new IP address is. And then you can click connect. So you don't have to copy the whole thing, although you can either way. But if you copy it, it's not going to have this :9833 if you're using that port. So you want to add that back on there if you copy that public IP for DNS over. Really, those are the only major caveats to running your AWS node instance. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps me out, helps you out, so I can produce more videos.